Wizards is on an all-time streak right now with Commander Precons. The Dragons of Tarkir Precons were top tier, and the Edge of Eternity's Precons are some of the greatest of all time. So how do the Lorwyn Eclipsed Precons hold up? Is Dance of the Elements the new bar for Five-Color Precons? Let's take a look at the concept, the commanders, the new cards, and if we can push this to GOAT status with just a 10-card swap. The deck's concept is a 5-color Kindred Elemental deck, which is something new. We haven't seen this in a Precon before, and really hasn't had any support since, well, last Lorwyn. Horde of Notions went a long time being the best 5-color Elemental commander, but has seriously been outclassed in recent years as the format gets better and better and faster and faster. And now we're given two possible successors of the crown, both with a 5-color identity, both interacting with Elemental specifically, but both doing it across different but very similar vectors. The deck rates very highly as there are some very smart choices for inclusion in the list, ranging from old cards that just make sense, through to new cards that fill a lot of gaps with this archetype, namely being game enders and high curve threats. The value obtained in gameplay is off the charts, with ways to double or quadruple up on Enter's effects with your elementals, which is something they kind of like to do. Resources won't be an issue, you'll have your hand full all game long, and you'll be able to pick away at your opponent's boards regularly. You won't be lacking for something to do with this deck, that's for certain. From a new card standpoint, we're looking at a pretty narrow list of inclusions. Almost all of the new cards are elementals and run at the top end of the curve. They'll find their home in some brews outside of this archetype, especially big guys like Impulsivity that get you more free value, but you may not be picking this deck up just for the new cards. The new lands, on the other hand, I don't know if I'm a fan of the recent trend of completing decent land cycles in Precons, with two new blue-green dual lands in this deck in the form of Rain Slick Copse and Sodden Verdure. These are good lands for a lot of decks, and their kin are good budget options. But being Precon exclusives makes them not budget friendly more often than not, so I would expect to see them reprinted eventually. Now the Precon is not without its weaknesses though. The game plan is just combat and value. There really are no combos to assemble like we've seen out of previous Precons lately, immediately putting it under some of the infinite or instant win con decks that have been released. The curve of the deck is also wicked high, with multiple 6, 7, or 8 mana inclusions that will, more often or not, sit uncast in your hand for the majority of the game. While there's ramp in the list by default, a few ways for you to make multiple mana off of your mana dorks, it's still going to leave you in a situation where you're only doing one thing a turn all game long. The mana base is also abysmal out of the box. Wizards took the opportunity to put every tap land imaginable in the same deck, which is a common L across all of these multicolored Precons. It's just exaggerated in this, a 5-color deck, because 16 of your 40 lands enter tapped. That number should be only 4 ideally. Your biggest opportunity to take this deck from good to great is making generous upgrades to the mana base. So what grade does this Precon earn? I'd give it a solid B+. It's stronger than 50% of the Precons you could go get your hands on right now, and is certainly the strongest 5-color Precon they've ever released. But when we look at S-tier Precons like World Shaper, Peace Offering, or Endless Punishment, it just doesn't hold a candle. And I have to put it below A-tier Precons like Counterintelligence or Jump Scare because it doesn't have a vector to victory beyond combat. In the end, good deck, fun to play, but not a must-have for your collection. I don't see this one flying off the shelves. Let's get a little deeper though, first by taking a look at our new commanders, Ashling and Massive Mysteries. They both care about elementals, but like, same but different. See, Ashling wants us to evoke our elementals and sacrifice them for extra value. Token copies when we sack our elementals for any reason, not just evoking. It gives us a way to get our elementals out cheaper by evoking them for just 4 mana. I do actually love that they chose 4 mana since it allows you to get both modes off of the new Mythic Evoke elementals in the main set. That's a neat upside. But this strategy of evoking elementals for extra tokens gets very expensive if you want to actually keep some board presence. Evoking an elemental and keeping the token copy costs 9 mana, and that's a big ask. While I like that the intent is there, a lot of players are just going to be tempted to evoke all of their elementals, leaving them with lots of value but zero board presence. Massive Mysteries, on the other hand, cares about keeping your elementals in play by giving 1 Myriad each turn. And in a 4-player game of Magic, that means that attacking with the Myriad Elemental gives you a token copy at your other 2 opponents. So, long term, this is an additional 2 enters triggers of your best elemental each turn. That's juicy. You'll need to get and keep your elementals in play though, which can be tricky when the deck is packed with 7 or 8 mana elementals. The upside being that you can play an elemental on turn 4, then cast the mass on turn 5, and instantly get the Myriad effect at the beginning of combat. Ashling gives us no real immediate benefit without paying more mana. I'm big in favor of moving Massive Mysteries to the lead of the deck. Sure, it costs Wooburg to get it out, but like Myriad on a Risen Reef? Or a Muldrifter? Or a Shimmer Creep? Yeah, I'll take that deal all day long. These commanders aren't the only new cards in the deck. We have a whole cycle of high mana value elementals with 9 mana encore costs that really help give us incentive to ramp or cheat them out. Encore lets us recast the creature from the graveyard, making a copy for each opponent and getting us multiple enters triggers along with bodies to swing. Great for long-term value and surprise from the graveyard. Subterfuge is our blue entry and the lowest mana value at 5. Its enters trigger gives a target evasion, and we get to draw as many cards as damage it deals to a player. If we're hard casting it, it's a fine one-time effect. If we're encoring it or giving it Myriad, this one card is all the card draw you'll need for the rest of the game. Belonging is the white entry, and at 6 mana value it makes 3 extra bodies on enters. Again, for a one-time effect this is fine but underwhelming. When you can get that effect multiple times, it's a 1 elemental army. Jubilation, the green entry, is also 6 mana and is a mini Crater Hoof. It gives your board +2/+2 in trample and is, unsurprisingly, a good effect one time or repeatedly. Encoring this creature is probably game over with a pretty small board state. Lamentation, the black entry, is a 6 mana 5/4 that eats another creature on enters and gains you a little bit of life. Again, it's fine. It's Shriekmaw's older brother, but frankly I'd rather have Shriekmaw than this guy. I'm underwhelmed by this attempt. Lastly, Impulsivity is the red entry at 7 mana. I think this is the best of the cycle because it'll instantly get you value back. In a lot of cases, you'll be paying 7 mana to flash back a 5 mana value spell and get a free 7/5 body. When you start getting multiple copies of this trigger, you're winning the game even if you're just copying a Cultivate. Free spells are never broken, remember? Okay, let's get to the fireworks factory. How would I improve this precon? First, let's put Massive Mysteries at the lead of the deck. Ashling is fine, but represents short-term gain only, while encouraging you to give up your long-term board state. Mass is a long-term powerhouse in a deck that's certainly not going to be winning any races. Second, we want to make sure that we are ramping. The deck includes Feyburrow Elder and Giganta to help with some big bursts of mana generation each turn, which you absolutely need. Flamebraider and Smokebraider both make 2 mana on tap for your elementals, which is a huge boost as well, and probably the best justification for 2 mana dorks the deck has. Your ramp includes Chromatic Lantern, great for a 5-color deck, and the first reprinting of Timeless Lotus, which is fine for this deck and does the job we need it to. Fertile Ground is also on the list, which is kind of meh for a ramp option, but, you know, it's there. But apart from that, your only other ramp is Cultivate and Kodama's Reach. That's it. Your ramp is vulnerable to removal since it's all on permanents, and I really want to change that. Rampant Growth and Shared Roots and Farseek are all good ramp options that really should be considered. We should be trying to tutor for lands that fill our current color production gaps, and hitting Wooburg on lands as swiftly as we can, because this deck requires versatility in mana color creation. On the note of mana dorks, Gloomtender has been reprinted in Lorwyn Eclipsed, and does the same thing Feyburrow Elder does, but sooner. The price of this card is set to come plummeting down once we start opening boosters, so make the effort to find one and put it in this deck. 5-color decks are where you get the most value from it. Now, we are a typal deck, we're Elemental Kindred, so why so little support for elemental creatures? Herald's Horn and the new Gathering Stone are right there, and both help reduce the cost of our elementals and get us some additional occasional card advantage by ripping an elemental off the top from time to time. I also really believe that including only Garrick's Uprising for enchantment-based, enters-based card draw is a big miss. With Massive Mysteries, we can be triggering effects like this multiple times each turn. Here's where I believe Elemental Bond, Temur Ascendancy, and to a lesser extent Up the Beanstalk all have a home in the deck. This way we can get benefits like having all of our creatures get Trample or Haste, and draw multiple cards when we're casting or having creatures enter. This is what the deck wants to do, so let it do it more. Speaking of, if Mass is making us multiple creature copies, and Wizards was nice enough to put Yarok the Desecrated in the 99, we should be doing more with Enter's effects. That means Panharmonicon should be an include. All of our elementals have Enter's effects, so this is always valuable, and it helps us get those enchantment-based card draw effects twice as often. One of these doubling effects in play, and your deck is doing the thing and making a real impact on the board state guaranteed. If one source of Myriad is good, why not another? Blade of Cells does what the Mass does too, so why not lean further into this effect that's not as fragile as our commander? I'm going to Myriad a Mulldrifter and you're not going to stop me. But did you know that Myriad stacks? If I have the Blade on my Mulldrifter and target it with the Mass, that'll be 4 extra Mulldrifters entering on attack. You cannot beat that kind of value. So then the question is, what are we removing? What gets cut? Most importantly, we are not a landfall deck. Remember I mentioned that the deck only has 2 ramp spells by default, Cultivate and Kodama's Reach? Otherwise, we're playing 1 land per turn, and all of our ramp is coming off of Mana Dorks and Rocks. So while they are elementals, Omnath 2 and Omnath 3, along with Avenger of Zendikar, really aren't getting us the kind of value or sustained benefit you'd want from their inclusion in the deck. You can make arguments for Omnath 2 and Avenger's inclusion based on their Enter's effects, but both being at 7 mana, if we were still running Ashling as a commander, I'd be more inclined to keep them both, but they're just not doing what we're looking for. It would take very little convincing for me to keep Angry Omnath though, as he is a potential non-combat win con when you get Myriad engines up and running. He does throw a lot of damage around from the legendary copies you make of him dying. Bane of Progress, while also an elemental, really doesn't benefit from us getting it out early or getting multiple copies of it. Yes, it's mass removal and will eat everyone's mana rocks and enchantments, but it's like the least useful elemental in the entire deck, honestly. Shatter the Sky is also a bad board wipe. There are better options than giving your opponents a card and destroying all of your stuff too. Remember that board wipes should be sculptable, and we are a Kindred deck. So if you really want or need a board wipe beyond Blasphemous Act, there's Kindred Dominance that lets you keep your whole board. If you want cheaper, there's also Harsh Mercy that lets you keep your whole board too. Why are these options not included in this list? New cards Elemental Spectacle and Springleaf Parade also get cut in my opinion too. The Parade wants us going very, very wide, and we really do nothing to benefit off of 4 or 5 1/1 shapeshifters. We aren't pumping our creatures in any way, and we really don't benefit from making our tokens mana dorks. There are uses for this card, but it's not in this list. Elemental Spectacle on paper seems like what you want in this deck. 6 mana for 5/5/5 elementals and 5 to 6 life. But that's it. The elementals don't do anything, there's no synergy to them, and for 6 mana, we want to be casting something with an Enter's effect that we can be giving Myriad later. Vernal Sovereign has some overlap with what we're doing, but the floor on the extra token it generates can be very, very low. It makes us an extra 2/2 at a minimum, but it may get us an extra 6/6 or more. Like my previous comments though, these are just vanilla elemental tokens. They don't do anything. So why are you including cards in your deck that don't do anything besides being a body? And for some reason, Wizards has a fetish with Hoofprints of the Stag. It's been included in like every precon that has white in it, and I remove it from each and every one of them. There are some decks that can use it, sure, but this deck only really uses it once it's already doing the thing. I don't like the card, please do better. With those adds and cuts, the deck functions a lot better, has a lot more unified and consistent theme, and actually impacts the board. I'm seeing so many folks play this list and complain about having nothing in play after evoking their 3rd straight turn in a row. The most important place to upgrade though is the mana base. If you're picking this up, or any 5-color precon, please have a mana base ready to go for it. While you could break the bank with triomes and fetch lands, it's really not necessary to do so. Shocklands, the entire cycle of them, have just been reprinted in Edge of Eternities and here in Lorwyn Eclipsed, and are the cheapest you'll ever pick them up for. It's a good time to start building your collection of these staple lands for exactly this reason. Replacing the 14 tap lands in this deck with 10 other duels that don't always enter tapped is my top recommendation for making it work. Even getting the full cycle of pain lands to put in here works too. You'll be taking some damage, sure, since you'll almost always be using some kind of color combination, but it beats playing behind curve all game long. But let me know how you're planning to upgrade the Dance of the Elements Precon and what you think about it once you've gotten your hands on it. Drop a comment with your list too, so I can take a look at your brews with these new legends. And don't leave without checking out my sponsors like Card Conduit. They are hands down the easiest way to sell your individual Magic cards without the hassle of traditional buy listing. They'll get you top dollar while handling all of the heavy lifting, from sorting to grading to optimizing your price across a huge network of vendors. And they'll give you cold hard cash for it. You can use the promo code MECHANIC right now for 10% off of all fees. And if you want to pick up the cards for this list, make sure to go check out Card Trader. Use my promo code MECHANIC right now for 5% off your order from any TCG. Card Trader's zero system means you can get cards from all over the world with only one shipping fee. Save money and time today. Lastly, you can check out all of my decks on MOXFIELD. MOXFIELD is the best deck building platform in the world and makes it easy to build decks and search for specific cards with their powerful tools. Have you checked out their drag and drop feature yet? It's revolutionary. Be sure to check out my brews and follow my profile there right now. If you were inspired to brew today, you have to hit that subscribe button. Check out this other deck on my channel right now for more sweet tech. And as always folks, good luck and have fun.